So one of the calls we get all the time is, how do I know that there's a problem with my siding? Well, it's really pretty easy to determine if there's a problem with your siding. Best thing to do is to come up to your wall, not looking at it straight on, but looking at it straight up. What we're looking for is, if you notice the edge of this board, it's nice and tight and crisp because it's been replaced with a fiber cement siding board. If we look at this board above it, we can notice that it's about twice as thick. One of the reasons for that is, if you took a hose right now and you sprayed this wall with water, water's going to run off the wall. But what happens is surface tension holds water on the edges and it drips. That water that hangs on the edges and drips is what gets sucked up into the siding. What happens is, this material is very porous, so when it hangs on the edges and drips, it sucks it up like a sponge. When it sucks it up, it starts to delaminate and come apart, it spreads. And that's what you'll notice here. This material, the siding that's on this house, is referred to as masonite hardboard siding. Well, this type of material is a lot different than fiber cement siding. Fiber cement siding that we install is the same material on the surface as it is underneath. It's the same material all the way through. It's not one material on the surface and another material on the backside. The hardboard siding, masonite, Georgia Pacific, Louisiana Pacific, all the different brands of hardboard siding are made up of two different products. One on the backside is basically a compressed paper or cardboard. So for example, and what they do is they take a substrate made out of cardboard like this, and they put a piece of paper over the top, very similar to paper that's used on sheetrock in bathrooms. If you're putting new sheetrock up in a bathroom, the sheetrock paper is a different color because it's designed not to absorb the moisture. For the same reason you don't want the sheetrock in your bathroom absorbing moisture, you don't want your siding absorbing moisture. The backside is made out of compressed cardboard, and then a thin layer of paper is glued and laminated to the surface. A roller comes over the top, it's heat embossed and laminated, and it presses in the wood grain in the pattern that you see here. That's what bonds the film to the substrate. When we put it on the wall and we're looking at it, we go around and we think, wow, there's nothing wrong with my siding, that sounds solid. I don't see what the problem is. Well, the problem is, when it rains, water runs off the surface, hangs on the edges and drips. That water that hangs on the edges and drips is absorbed into the product. It causes the product, the surface, to separate from the substrate, and that's what causes what we refer to as siding failure. And anywhere that this material comes in direct contact with water, you can see that it doesn't hold up so well. Now, looking at this on the wall, you look at the surface of the siding and you think, well, that doesn't look too bad. There's nothing wrong with my siding. Well, when we take it off and you see what it looks like, the story changes a little bit. People are shocked to see how bad it really is when we start removing it. So, where do you notice this the most are where pieces of siding meet. Wherever there's a joint and two pieces of siding meet, when it rains, water gets in behind that joint. The edges aren't protected by that waterproof surface that's put on there. Wherever it was cut, wherever they put a nail in the surface and penetrated that paper, when they cut this out and cut through the paper to put that little decorative edge in there, that all compromised the waterproof surface. And when the moisture gets into it, it will swell, it will delaminate, and it will fall apart. Now, this particular homeowner has done a phenomenal job of maintaining this house over the years. They've replaced pieces of siding, so you can see where the original hardboard siding is and the new piece of siding is. You can notice a difference in the bead, you can notice a difference in the joint, and you can notice a difference in the wood grain texture. And though it fixes the problem of a rotting board, it also, in a way, makes the problem more noticeable, because now you can see the difference between the old and the new. Everywhere there was a new board put in and an old board left, you can see the specific difference between the panels. And over time, you're going to spend a lot of money replacing boards here and there, and what they finally decided to do is say, enough is enough. Now we're removing all of the siding from the home, because when they put a board in here and they put a board in there, They don't put flashing in behind the joints. They don't put house wrap on the wall. They don't install window trim and new flashing. They just take a piece out and put it back in, leaving everything else the way that it is. When we come in and re-side a wall on your house, we remove all the siding from the home. We put new trim in around the windows. We put new header flashing in above the windows. And we put flashing in behind all of the joints so that water can never get in behind the siding anywhere along the wall, even without caulk or paint. If you have to use caulk or paint to hold water out of your wall, your siding is not installed properly. Once we come in here and evaluate a home, the first thing we do is we look up the wall to see how much swelling there is in the wall. Now, as you get up the wall, you can see here, wherever there's two pieces of siding that meet, there's a lot of dog earring. And what that means is where the pieces of siding meet, a lot of water is getting in there and causing a significant amount of swelling. Now, even though they've done a good job of caulking it, the problem is the caulk kind of looks bad because now they got this big bead of caulk at all of the joints and it just draws your eye to it, making it look a little bad. But if it keeps the water out, that's what counts. Well, water's getting in behind here, and what it's doing is it's rotting out all of this siding. So here where the two pieces meet, you can see that the siding is deteriorating to the point where I can put my finger through it. And the same thing is happening here. So we know there's certain areas, wherever there's a penetration in a wall, wherever there's a window, wherever there's a door, wherever there's a water spigot, wherever there's two pieces of siding that meet, if there's a lot of shrubs, if the siding's low to the ground, if the siding comes in contact with a roof, these are going to be areas that we know we're going to have a lot of damage to the existing siding.